They're out in the sun, and that is going to affect so many things. It's going to affect what procedures we do in the clinic, what if you've had recent sun exposure or not. It's going to affect if you sunburn, if you peel. All of these things can play a role.
Hi, skin friend. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Skin Reel. Now, if you are a bride-to-be, recently engaged, or even a groom-to-be or mother of the bride or groom, you are not going to want to miss this episode. This week, I am talking with Dr. Devina Mehta. She's a board-certified dermatologist. She trained at Cornell and now practices in Hoboken, New Jersey. And she knows a thing or two about bridal and wedding prep for your skin. As a recent bride herself, she got married a mere 6 weeks ago, so she is still basking in all the wedding bliss and bridal glow. And she's going to be sharing with us some of her favorite tips for having amazing skin for your wedding day and how you can really look and feel your best on the big day. You might be surprised by some of her advice. And I love how she is very open and shares with us what she did to prepare for her big day. And I'm also going to share what I did for mine. It's a little bit different. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but it worked for me. So if you have a big day coming up, whether it's a wedding or some other big event like a graduation, you are not going to want to miss this episode. Dr. Mehta, thank you so much for being here. I love that we're having this topic because when we release this, it's going to be spring and summer and lots of weddings going on. And so I know there are lots of brides to be out there wondering what they should do to make sure they look their best on their big day. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, you have some personal firsthand experience about being a bride-to-be, right? Because you just got married, so big congratulations there. I would love to hear about your wedding and kind of what you did to get ready for your big day.
Yes, thank you. It's hard to believe it was only 6 weeks ago. It feels like a lifetime ago. I wish I could relive it every day. It was incredible, but it was extremely stressful. So my heart goes out to all the brides out there. I know the overwhelming feeling of wanting everything to be perfect. And part of that is also that you want to feel like your best self. And, there's this pressure to be perfect as a bride as well. So that's something I took really seriously. I think as a dermatologist, I felt a little extra layer of pressure because I felt like there were these expectations that my skin had to be perfect and everything. So definitely something I thought a lot about. And I love helping brides on their journey as well.
Yeah, well, I hope it was as magical and perfect as you can imagine. But I feel like as most people who have been married realize, nothing's perfect, right? Something always goes on. And actually, I have a good friend who ended up getting ringworm on her cheek weeks before her wedding. And, so you just kind of have to roll with the punches a little bit too. I mean, we're going to be discussing ways that you can really try to maximize how you look for your big day and your skincare. But also just be willing to kind of roll with the punches a little bit too, because even with the best plans and the best preparation, life happens, right? And it can still be an amazing, beautiful day, even if it's not 100% what you thought it was going to be. So say you get married, right? Most people have at least a year engagement, or at least I shouldn't say a year, but several month engagement, unless you're just doing a real quick down at the city hall, right? So what is sort of the ideal time to start thinking about your skincare and your skin for your wedding?
So I tell my friends who are brides, I say venue check, dress check, board certified derm check. That should be the order that we're going in. Ideally, you want to give yourself the most amount of time. Ideally, it's at least 6 to 8 months. That gives you time if you want to try any new procedures, to be able to try them, see how you react to them. It also gives you time to figure out what skincare products are right for you. And so that you can really be on a nice, consistent regimen for the 3 to 4 months before your wedding day.
Yeah, you do not want to be trying out something new right before your wedding. And you definitely don't want to be doing big procedures, things you've never done before, right before, because your skin takes time, right? I know sometimes we see things on TV or Instagram or whatever, and it can seem like the results are overnight, they're instantaneous, but that's not really how the skin works. So I love that you're telling people to get the venue, I guess get the groom.
Oh yeah, that part too.
Get the ring, get the venue, and get your dermatologist. So what are just some basics that someone should do 6 to 8 months out in preparation?
I think the first thing is thinking about how you feel about your skin right now. Are there any big issues that you've been having that you've been putting off getting properly addressed? So whether that's acne, rosacea, dry skin, any cosmetic concerns that you have. And then that's kind of when you know how much time you're going to need. But the first very basic is your skincare routine. So I am a minimalist. I did not change anything before my wedding in terms of my skincare routine. And I stuck with what I call the golden trifecta, which is vitamin C, retinol, and SPF. And I think those are like the basic ABCs for everyone to start at. Barring any big medical conditions or specific concerns that you have that need specific tailored treatment, for the average bride, that's a great place to start.
And really, that can be your skincare for life, right? If you don't have any specific skin needs. So that's just like great advice, whether you're a bride to be or not, and once you're married, etc. Now, what about as you're starting to get closer to the day? What sort of things change? What should you be doing or thinking about?
Definitely avoiding any new product. I mean, I went for a massage and I was like, here's my body lotion. Like, I really was a little crazy about it, but that's because you can be allergic to products. And it's a really tough time to find that out when it's leading up to your wedding. And so, for brides specifically, one of the things can be the eyelash glue that they use. So, I definitely recommend doing trials. So, I did 2 trials with my eyelash artist, making sure that they were using hypoallergenic glue and that I didn't have any reactions. And then the other part I would say leading up to the wedding is just maintaining your stress levels. So we know stress affects our skin. And even if you haven't had a pimple in years, the stress of a wedding will bring it out. So really trying to focus on those two things and just staying calm, staying consistent, and really, riding that last wave until the wedding.
The glue, that would be a terrible rash, an allergic reaction to have right before your wedding with your eyes puffy and swollen and tearing. So that's a great point. And doing a trial run before, just like you might do a trial run with your hairdresser, make sure you like your hairstyle, do a trial run with the makeup, with the eyelash glue, with the stuff that you're going to be using. That's really great advice because when these rashes come out, it's really hard to hide and cover. You're really uncomfortable. So I love that. What are some like procedures a bride might want to do and when do they time that?
Yeah. So if you're doing things that are more invasive, you definitely want to be doing those further and further out from your wedding. So if it's going to be pretty aggressive lasers, if it's going to be filler, those are things that you want to be starting at that 6 to 8 month range at least, if not earlier. And those things take time. Sometimes you need multiple sessions of a laser. Sometimes we are slowly adding filler to address specific cosmetic concerns. You don't want to overload the face right away, versus Botox. I typically recommend trying it at least if it's the first time about 6 months out. That way you have 3 months to see how it really affects you. And then when you're due again, you can kind of gauge how long it lasted for you and what you liked and what you didn't like. So for me, I stuck with the same Botox routine and the same injector for at least 6 months to 9 months before my wedding because I wanted to make sure it was fine tuned to exactly how I wanted to look on my wedding day.
Please don't come in like 2 weeks before your wedding and say you want Botox for the first time, right? Because it's not a good time to try it. You're better off just not doing it and come see us afterwards. Yeah. And same thing with filler too. You can bruise. And I also think even though filler is pretty immediate, like the hyaluronic acid ones, I still feel like it takes at least a week or more to kind of settle in, the swelling to go down, and for it to look more natural. And so again, not a great time to come in right before. If your wedding really is about a month out, you probably should just like stay the course and we'll see you after the honeymoon, right?
Exactly. I've definitely had a bride who came in 5 days before her wedding for Botox. And it was like, it takes 2 weeks for it to kick in. We really, there's no point. So that's definitely true.
And same thing with the lasers, depending on what you're getting. If you're doing something more like an IPL, that's going to take a series of treatments. So yeah, better to get in. And to your point, why you really want to have that first visit 6 to 8 months out so that you're aware that it's going to take a few treatments every month. Or if you're doing a bigger procedure, like a deeper chemical peel or a CO2 or fractionated laser, you're going to need time to heal for that sort of redness, that pinkness to kind of settle out. So all great advice there too. And I would also just tell people listening, if you are a bride to be, don't feel like you have to run out and do all these things either. You don't have to do them. It's all about how you want to look and feel. But if there's some discoloration on your skin that bothers you, then you want to get it treated before your wedding, then by all means. But certainly if your skin looks good and you don't have any concerns, you really don't have to change anything if you don't want to.
That's a great point, and that, I think, was something that I had to think about too. Being a derm, I have access to everything and anything, but I realized if it's not broke, I'm not gonna fix it. I was happy with my skin, and the idea of chasing perfection is just such a slippery slope, and all procedures have risks with them. Everything that we do has a risk, so whether it's breaking out from a facial or it's post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from a laser, there are possible side effects and there are risk to weigh. And so for me, it wasn't worth it. I was happy enough. I didn't actually do anything new leading up to the wedding.
Yeah, it is hard when you're a dermatologist and really you can do anything and everything that you possibly want. Sometimes you just got to take a step back, and just because your friend did it or someone else did it doesn't mean it's necessarily right for you or that you need it. Again, also why I love how you recommended getting in to see a dermatologist, and they can kind of address what bothers you. If it's redness, what's the best approach for that? If it's brown spots, if it's more just volumizing. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see brides make? I know you said coming in 5 days before your wedding for Botox, not a great choice. What are some other things that you see brides doing?
Other thing would be doing too much. So, like we talked about, the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to be doing something new, to be doing something because we're a bride, that doesn't always hold up. And there are risks to products, risks, irritation risk, risks to procedures. So definitely erring on the side of doing less is more. And remembering that everyone who's going to be around you at your wedding day has likely known you for years. And your partner you're marrying has known you and seen you in all of your ups and downs and all of your glory and all of the mess. So just remembering what the moment's really about and not getting too caught up in doing too much or putting too much pressure on yourself.
Everyone at your wedding, they love you. That's why they're there, right? They're there to support you. And so you really don't need to do all this extra stuff. This should be sort of the icing on top and just kind of fun and make you feel good and make you feel amazing and beautiful in your gown. But yeah, when it crosses over to the point of stress and you're not enjoying it anymore, then I feel like it's gone too far. So yeah, I think just taking a step back and taking a deep breath. And I'll just got to share my wedding prep because it was very different probably from a lot of people's. But I was a dermatology resident and I was up in Boston, and I was on one of our busiest, hardest rotations, which was the consult service at Massachusetts General Hospital. And I think I worked 12, 14-hour days, all the time. And I was super stressed. It was early in my residency, so I was still learning the hospital and everything. And so my bridal wedding prep really was non-existent. And I wasn't doing Botox at the time because I was a brand new resident. I didn't feel comfortable asking any of the attendings. And so mine was super, super basic. So it can be done. And really, there's the whole gamut, right? But I do find that if you let it just stress you out, then you're kind of missing the whole point of the purpose of the wedding and everything, that it really should be fun. But Dr. Mehta, I would love to hear about your bridal prep because I think it's a little more elegant, sophisticated than mine. So can you kind of share what you did to be an amazing, beautiful bride on your wedding day?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I actually kept it quite simple. So as we talked about, I did that skincare trifecta. So the vitamin C, retinol, and SPF. And the important thing to know is I didn't push it in terms of these things. Like retinol, I was using a 0.3% retinol because that's what worked for my skin. There are stronger concentrations, there's prescription strength. And I was just using an over the counter retinol because I listened to my skin. And that's what my skin responded well to. And then I used a gentle moisturizer, a gentle cleanser, and then the Botox that I did about every 3 months leading up to the wedding and then 4 weeks before the wedding because I wanted to have some movement starting to creep back actually at the time of the wedding. When we were talking about feeling empowered, that there are professionals available to help you feel your best, but also not feeling pressured. I think what's also so important is who you see. And, I was seeing myself but that's somebody who I trusted that my vision was aligned with. But that isn't a possibility for everyone. But it's so important that the person you see it doesn't feel like a salesperson who's just adding to your routine and it's overcomplicated and it's overwhelming you. Making sure it's someone that you're seeing who you feel is on the same page as you and that it's very supportive and will know when to call it a day because they have your best interests at heart.
I feel like you say the word wedding and whatever business just like totally like 10x's the price just because they heard the word wedding. So, yeah, I always say trust someone who tells you no. It's easy to find people who are going to tell you yes, who are going to sell you on whatever device they have because they have it and they want to get use out of it. But see someone who has the courage to say, nope, you don't need that. And I'm not going to do it for you because that's not the right approach. So having that relationship is key. And I love that you mentioned that. And yeah, and then for anyone listening, I think the majority of dermatologists, we do our own work on ourselves, right? So find someone you trust, right? That's the way to do it.
So true.
What about the groom? We talk a lot about the bride, but I think in this day and age, grooms are getting more into their skincare and their appearance on the big day. I feel like sort of gone are the days where the groom just like shows up the morning of, right? Do you find that grooms are coming in seeking skincare and what's kind of your advice for them?
Yes, I've definitely had that recently, and I love that. And you're right, that old mentality of a groom just showing up the day of, that's out the door. Not only are they helping plan the wedding, but they also feel empowered to look and feel their best too. So I've had men coming in for whether it's acne, skincare routines, or even Botox leading up to the wedding, as well as Fraxels and resurfacing lasers so they can maybe clear up some of the sun damage they've accumulated over the years. And then for my husband, actually, we had a conversation too where I was like, look, I'm here. I'm your dermatologist. Like, how can I help? I want you to feel and look your best as well. And so for him, it was finally taking control of his mild acne, but getting him on a skincare routine. And it was kind of the final motivating push for him to take that seriously. But grooms absolutely should be just as empowered as brides to be getting involved and finding the right care for them as well.
I feel like the trifecta you were talking about with the vitamin C, the retinol, and sunscreen, I mean, that is applicable whether you're a bride, a groom, man, woman, just not tween, right? That works for their skin. And that might be a good way to kind of get them started into just a good, basic, simple skincare routine.
Absolutely. Definitely defies wedding age, besides the tweens, which is a whole nother topic that we can go into right now. But definitely all throughout that trifecta really does not steer a majority of people wrong.
You know who I see a lot of in my practice too, other than brides, it's mother of the bride or mother of the groom. And these women are coming in knowing, a year in advance, their child just got engaged and they are wanting to look and feel their best. And for a lot of them, this is sort of the first time that maybe they've thought about doing some procedures. It's kind of the impetus to get them in. But do you have any advice or thoughts on mother of the bride or groom and how their skincare or routine should change?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, when we are talking about parents of the groom and bride, we are getting into slightly older age bracket. And then we may be considering a bit more aggressive of procedures, especially if they haven't been involved at all or seen anyone as yet. So it might be that deeper peel or that more great aggressive CO2 laser. So definitely starting earlier rather than later is so important for them as well.
I do find, yeah, they tend to be more mature, and especially if they have not been kind of doing maintenance or keeping up, it can sometimes feel like there's a lot that they come in thinking they need or want done. And really, like you've been saying, the main thing is they need to figure out, well, what bothers you? When you look in the mirror, what bothers you? What would you like to correct? And kind of starting with that. But one of my favorite things to do is just even out someone's complexion. I find that if you can do that, everything else looks better. But if your complexion is not even and uniform and the texture is not smooth, you could go get a facelift and it's not going to look as good. So for me, that's like my number one is trying to just help them get a more uniformed, balanced complexion, even it out. And I find that that is like 85%. And I do find with some of these more mature patients, they are potentially interested in more aggressive treatments and maybe even surgery. And so if you are thinking about that, you really need to, I would say, give yourself many months because that swelling is going to linger. So ideally, that 6 to 8 month window is a great time to have those more aggressive or invasive procedures like surgery or big lasers or peels, because that does allow your skin time to settle in, the swelling to go down. So yeah, again, not a 1 month before kind of deal. And also same thing with Botox too. I love how you said, try it out around 6 months. See if you like it. Some people may not like it. They may feel like they want more movement or not. And so then let it wear off and then come in about a month to 2 months before the wedding so that you have a little bit of movement, because at that 1 month mark, you can feel pretty frozen. And if you're not used to it, it can feel weird and you may not like that sensation on the wedding day, right?
Definitely, there's photography and videography to think about as well, where we may want more expression than we usually do with when we get treated with Botox. So that fine art that when you're with someone that you trust, you can have those conversations and make sure your schedule is attuned to that.
I really think having that relationship is so key. If you're bouncing around from one provider to another provider, a different place in there, you're never going to get that kind of consistency. And I really think having that relationship makes all the difference in the world. And like you said, like there are complications with all things and not everything is going to be perfect the first time. And it really takes working together and having that relationship with your dermatologist who's going to be there with you, helping you along the way. I think you'll get better results. I know you'll get better results, faster results, and you won't spend as much time and money just wasted. So yeah, just kind of forming that relationship, following it through. And I think you can really see some impactful changes, whether you've got a wedding coming up or whether it's a graduation or what have you, right? Just whatever big event you want to look and feel your best.
Definitely.
Any advice for like the wedding party? Are people still doing big wedding parties? And do you all still wear matching outfits? Like, what's the vibe like? And what's the skincare vibe like in 2024?
That is so funny. I feel like after COVID, there's no rules anymore to weddings. You really get to do what you want to do. And I think that's so beautiful. So for us, we had two best men and two maids of honor. And of course, my maids of honor or my sister and my best friend of like 15 plus years. So they have been utilizing my dermatology knowledge for quite a long time. So we were all on the same page when it came to skincare. And they looked beautiful and glowing and were wearing matching dresses, but just the two of them. But that is a great point as well. Some of the bridal parties will go as far as matching their shoes and matching their jewelry and things like that. And some brides really care about having a unified appearance amongst their bridal party. So, skincare and taking care of your skin is definitely a part of that as well.
And maybe just be careful if you're going to take the bridal party to get a massage or get a facial. I mean, that's one thing we didn't talk about, but I definitely wouldn't recommend getting a facial right before the wedding, right?
Definitely not. Oh, and can we talk about bachelorette parties and the timing of bachelorette parties? A lot of times they're out in the sun, and that is going to affect so many things. It's going to affect what procedures we do in the clinic, what if you've had recent sun exposure or not. It's going to affect if you sunburn, if you peel. All of these things can play a role. So you should always be careful about the sun, but especially that bachelorette party, especially when you're weeks away from the wedding.
So true. You don't want some funky tan lines or your bridal party to have some weird tan lines or a burn, right? That would be terrible.
Definitely. And I got married in Cabo at the beach. So I told my bridal party, my parents, I was like, you walk outside, you're wearing a hat, you're wearing sunscreen. We do not need any sunburns in the photos. We do not need any funky tan lines. So we were there for a few days before. So I was definitely very strict. They knew they had to be careful.
That's a great point with the bachelorette party. So yeah, so be careful for a multitude of reasons, right? Be smart at the bachelorette party and for the wedding. But yeah, great point all around there. Dr. Mehta, I would love for you to share kind of your top 3 pearls. Someone's getting married in the next year. Give us your top pearls on what they should be doing and thinking about now.
Okay. So first is reflect. Reflect on how you feel. Reflect on how you want to feel. And that usually is tied into how you look. 2 is schedule. Schedule that appointment with the dermatologist. Find someone who works with you, who you trust. And then the third thing would be to stay calm, try to enjoy the moment, and just try and keep things simple and consistent, and you'll be in great shape for the wedding.
Yeah, just know it's a beautiful day, and not everything's going to go right. That's just like a given, but enjoy it and don't let small little hiccups, right, ruin everything you've planned and all the joy and the love that you have for that day and for your spouse. So all really wonderful advice. I love it. For people listening, if they want to follow you, you've got some great social media content out there and educational information, or they want to see you in person, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm at Dr. Dev Derm on Instagram. I'm practicing in Hoboken, New Jersey. I do medical and cosmetic dermatology, and I'd love to meet you guys.
Awesome. Well, we will include all that in the show notes. And you know what? I just realized one thing we didn't talk about, the honeymoon. Any special skincare stuff for the honeymoon before we sign off?
Oh my gosh, no. The honeymoon was a time to relax. Okay, sunscreen, of course, sun protection, of course. I still maintain my skincare routine, but oh my gosh, I think that post-wedding glow takes over and you don't have to worry too much at that point.
Yes, just sunscreen. That's all you need, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Mehta, this has been a lot of fun. And I guess I need to be like a bride again at my like 25th anniversary or something, so I can like live it up and do it all right again. I'll have to come see you for the procedures I can't do on myself.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Actually, Dr. Mina, that's a fun question. If you could do it over again, what would your bridal prep look like right now?
I was doing everything that I tell people to do wrong. Like I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating right. So eating, sleeping, drinking water. And I would have liked a little Botox. I noticed I had a little bit of some lines around my eyes, and I wish I had had just a smidge of Botox. But to be honest, I had a beautiful wedding. I loved it. It was everything I wanted. It wasn't perfect, but I really wouldn't change it. And it just makes me kind of laugh that now that I've been married so many years now, that sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on this one day, but really it's this whole marriage and your whole life together that really is so much more impactful. And yeah, other than maybe a little Botox, I don't think I'd do anything differently.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Well, we'll have to touch base with you in about 15 years, and we'll see if you have any thoughts on that too.
That sounds good.
All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Mehta. We'll see everyone next week. That's all I've got for this week's episode of the Skin Reel podcast. But here's some great news. One of the most valuable things you can do to help me and other new potential listeners to find my show is for you to both rate this show and leave a review. So, as a special bonus for you, if you leave me a review, take a screenshot and email it to info@theskinreel.com, and I will send you a thank you free PDF on skincare truths versus hype, because you know I love spreading the word of good, truthful skincare. And please be sure to share with your skin friends so that we can get the word out there about real skin. And until next time, remember, no matter where you are in your skincare journey, always remember to love the skin you're in, because real skincare from real experts can be real simple.